So, everyone who is here, thank you very much for being here. I am so excited and in total gratitude for the amazing team that has actually created this Rejuvenation Fest. And I think all of us need a bit of a spark in the beginning of the month to get us all activated and started. And so this amazing team of country chairs that we have at G100 Oneness and Wisdom got together. I think all of us put our minds and souls together and said, let's do something different to get everyone up and running. So that's how it actually started off. And I am so thrilled that we're launching off today. Great start. Thank you, Natalie, for taking the lead. Okay. So let's look at what exactly is rejuvenation and the festival that we call it. So it's all about getting our mind, our body, and our spirit to work in synergy, so we have more congruency. Okay, so we have amazing people within the G100 framework, as in Oneness and Wisdom, that is our chapter, who are phenomenal wellness, health, spiritual coaches, mentors, and the whole 9 yards. And I thought, what would be a better space for us to share our amazing oneness when we come together to create greater, and also our wisdom to actually share with the rest of the world. So, having said that, and without further ado, I'd like to welcome Dr. Natalie Forest. She is, and I would like to say, she has been at crossroads in her life, juggling too many demands, um, feeling a bit lost, and then you need to connect with Dr. Natalie. Dr. Natalie is a revolutionary rule breaker. Now, I love the sound of that. Many people may think that rule breaking is not the right thing to do, but in my opinion, one has to unlearn to learn something new. So I guess Natalie is going to actually show us how to do that today. The way she says is to gain control and purpose by showing you how you can overcome challenges that have been holding you back to finally break through from the crossroads that you've been keeping, that have you stuck, stressed, and triggered. With her, you will learn some powerful tools and strategies that will help you feel empowered, confident, and capable of taking on whatever life throws your way. With deep insights into humanity, Dr. Natalie today will guide us on our journeys of really discovering the brilliance of who we can be. The topic, as she says, is what's triggering you? Really? So, a bit about Dr. Natalie and what it is that we've done, Dr. Natalie. Now we're going to talk about what exactly is the topic. So, what's triggering you? Really? So, to enjoy life, we often need to release some of the things that cause us stress. I wonder if everyone agrees. Could you just put in the chat whether you agree with it or not, ladies and gents, if you're a gentleman out there? To enjoy life, we often need to release some of the things that cause us stress. At the same time, this is not always easy, as we often go to the symptoms of stress instead of the root. Today, let's get to some of the roots and really figure out what triggers you, what causes you stress and dis-ease. To that, you can release, so that you can release and move forward into the rest of this day, week, months, year, less burdened and happier. So, Dr. Natalie Forest, I'd like you to come on center stage and take it away. I'm going to
thank you. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And I want to do one thing real quick. For most of the time, I will not be sharing the screen, but let me see. No, I can't. That's awesome. So I want to first thank Jennifer, because Jennifer is an amazing global chair for the Oneness and Wisdom Wing. I don't know if we would have this festival without her. Pause there for a second. So there's a driving force. And when we talk about oneness, when we talk about wisdom, it's really about all of us coming together. And the wisdom, as you may know, comes from the inside. So with the wisdom coming from the inside, the question, what really triggers us, can become very, very important as well. Because the question then is it the other? Is it us? What exactly triggers us? And I want to ask you right now, just to start us off, because for some of you, it's early morning. For some of us, it's midday. For some of us, it's late. Okay? Thinking about it being late, let's just take a breath. We'll do that a couple of times today. Let's take a breath. If you want, close your eyes, but only do that if you're not going to fall asleep, okay? Because otherwise I'm gonna have to wake you up. That wouldn't be fun. So let's just take a deep breath in. Hold it to the count of 3 if you can, and then release slowly to the count of 4. Let's do this 3 times. Into the count of 4. Hold it for the count of 3 and out. The count of 4. When we're counting, you can do this, of course, on your own. One more time, into the count of 4. Hold to the count of 3 and release. So, why did I just do that? Number one, because I thought you're probably not going to expect it, so I have to do something that is unexpected. But number two, I did that because there is so much going on. There's so much jitter and judder and everything outside. And some of you, when you came on, you were obviously still on your phones. You were still talking with your daughters, with your husbands, with your cats, with your dogs. There's a lot going on in our lives. So sometimes we really just need to be able to breathe. And so sometimes today we will take a break and breathe. Having said that, triggers. I love this. I have this discussion with myself all the time. What triggers me? I just had this conversation actually yesterday or maybe 2 days ago with my daughter. And then on Thursday, I had it with a group of trainers, high-level leadership trainers, where we were also talking about triggers. And one of them, it was so funny, very, very experienced, right? And he looked at the other gentleman in the room. There were 2 gentlemen and me and another lady. And the one gentleman looked at the other and said, I know you're going to find a mistake. I was like, whoa, what triggers you? And the poor gentleman who was looked at felt the same way. He's like, I'm not out to get you. So that is an example of trigger. Or I'm going to give you one more, and then I'm going to ask you to give me some. One trigger that I hear a lot is, but he said, and that made me upset. But she said, and that made me upset. You ever use that language? He did, she did, and that made me. In other words, it triggers you. Do you have any things that right now, off the top of your head, you could say, oh, that is a trigger for me? Do you know any things right now, please share, that actually trigger you? Please put them in the chat if you have any. We're a small enough group that I can just look at the chat while I'm talking to you. Are there any things that trigger you? Your mom, the traffic, anything of that sort? Oh, I'm getting some messages. Yes. When my kid texts me instead of coming over and we are in the same house. Oh my gosh, yes. Mine doesn't do that yet. Ha! She just yells from the other room while I'm cooking and I can't hear a thing. Okay. So that's a great example. Okay. There are other examples. If you're thinking about work, I'm going to just say ladies right now. When you're at work, whether you're an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, work in a company, is there anything that triggers you when you're at work? I had one thing earlier today, well, the last 3 days. That printer is a Wi-Fi printer, and it just drops the line all the time. And whenever I want to print, it does not let me print. I have to reconnect it. Now, it really doesn't trigger me anymore as much. But when we're thinking about something that triggers you, yes, the computer, the internet, when we're talking about something that triggers you, that is coming from the outside in, right? So the real question we need to ask is, when this occurs, yes, Tanya, when this occurs, how are you feeling? By the way, I'll be happy to share some slides with you if you want them afterwards. I usually don't use them, but I always have them. And Tanya just said, you know, when I have sent a fax and the receiving party says it didn't get it, yes. Or you send an email and they say, oh, I didn't get the email, yes. Now, you are mad when it happens. I want you to think about your mood before it happens. When the person that you just sent a fax to says, I didn't get it. When your kid texts you from the other room, when your computer doesn't start, before that happens, how do you feel? Think about it. Because this goes into wisdom. This goes into knowing yourselves. Are you mad before? Are you irritated before? What is happening before this outside force triggers you? If you want to share, share. If you don't, I know this is not easy. That's why I do things upside down and left side to right. Okay? You're always saying something triggers me. When we're saying that, what we're actually doing is we're giving away our power. Thank you, Denise. She said, I was already frustrated before. Yes. So using the work example, you might be, like I was earlier, under a little bit of stress because I really wanted to get this one task done before I meditated and came online. I really wanted to. And then the program I was using froze. Now, again, I can't use myself as much of an example, but I do have my trigger moments. I've done a lot of work there. So I did get a bit triggered, but not too much. And we know the word but negates everything that comes before, right? So I didn't get triggered too much. I breathed. I got up. I talked to my cat over there. For me, that is soothing. And I realized there is a reason why this is happening. I had put myself under stress, and then I gave my power away to an outside source. And once I did that, mostly subconsciously, I then had the ability to blame that outside source for something that really I created. I created this trigger. So think with me. Close your eyes, take a deep breath in. has the power to trigger you? And what has the power to trigger you? Please be honest with yourselves. I know the weather can be a trigger for some. Is it really the weather? Thank you, Jennifer. Yes. We create it. I used to, while you're still thinking about it, I used to train public safety officers stress management. Because you might imagine they can be under a lot of stress. And they didn't even realize some of the things they were thinking. It's tough to admit, Tanya, yes. There is A plus B equals C, which is a formula, which sounds kind of logical, I know, not really revolutionary. The A is the outside source. You cannot change the internet not working, can you? What then can you change about the internet not working, as an example? What can you change? You can't change the thing itself because it's out of your control. What, however, is in your control is the question. The internet doesn't work. What can I control? Exactly. Your response. And thank you. I love that. I love that, Tanya. And that is the word I was hoping to get. Response. Are you aware that there's a difference between reaction and response? Of course you are. Tanya is. I know that just about everybody here is. When the internet fails and you start kicking and screaming, I start kicking and screaming and throwing things. I react. I don't give it a second. I'm just going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I react. No thought process, no evaluation, no insight. Because I am already stressed, unhappy, frustrated, irritated, under duress. Maybe I have a sore throat. I don't really want to, I don't want to pick up the phone because I don't like to talk to the people. So I was hoping to write an email. Now I have to call them. All these things are going on inside of you. And you are the only thing you can control. And I love what Jennifer just wrote. I cannot change the internet, but perhaps we can work on our internet. Exactly. Oneness and wisdom. Wisdom comes from within. So if you know you cannot change, we're using this example right now, you cannot change the internet connection. It goes on, it goes out. You've tried 5 different suppliers, still goes on and out. Why is that? Number one, you can only control your response, right? In order to have a response, you need to look at everything that is happening. See, I'm not just a mentor or coach. I'm a healer. I'm intuitive, like many of us. And I use a lot of signs from the universe. I call them universal signs, signs by God, signs by spirits. For example, when I have a sore throat, I use that as a sign from the universe to tell me I've either talked too much or there's something I just don't want to say. And then I have to, of course, dig a bit deeper. Now looking, Again, just as this example, the internet not working. Instead of reaction, let's try and build a response. Why do you think the internet is not working right now? What is the purpose of the internet not working right now? And then ultimately, absolutely, what is the lesson? Everything in life happens by and for us. So if something is happening for us, even if we disagree with it, how can we use it to our advantage? Well, that is how we get to consciousness, conscious awareness, and thereby wisdom. Integrity, truth, honesty with ourselves. I so appreciate everybody here interacting and putting things in the chat. Thank you for that. You are allowing yourself to be honest and vulnerable out in the open. That's amazing. And it means that you already realize a lot of the things that I'm saying. Because when it comes to conscious awareness, when it comes to wisdom, it is something that is also already granted to us in so many ways. And it's granted to us in ways that we just need to uncover. And that's what we're doing with what is really triggering you. Like, really. So the first step that we've taken so far, the first two steps that we've taken is realize that there are outside triggers, and we realize that in addition to there being outside triggers, we can turn this thing around and say, whoa, what if those triggers actually are my issue, my best way of communicating and taking care of me. So the internet not working right here, right now. Have I been on the computer too long? What else needs my attention right now that I have not been listening to? Because there was a word that was used in the description when I am always looking for the lesson when anything isn't working the way I should, or it should. Should. Who likes using the word should in this group? Who likes using the word should? Consciously. Hands up, honestly. Use the reaction button. Do you use the word should consciously? All right. All right. Oh, I know you are. Now, here's the reason why I'm asking it. I know it's a tiny little side trick, okay? I'm banning it. I'm banning should. I'm working very hard on not using it. I want to say 90% of the time I succeed. I'm teaching my daughter not to use it as much as I can. Because should, you're really thinking about it, is a moral and social obligation. And what if you don't agree with it? I'm a revolutionary, right? Exactly. There are certain expectations And you may agree with them, you may not agree with them. This is not about a country, right? And following the law of the land that you chose to live in. This is about your life. And some shoulds trigger me, but I know how to deal with it. Okay. Because those are expectations put onto you. And we have the right to figure out if we want to comply for our own lives, not legally, with them or not. And if we don't agree, we don't use them. And that means we cannot get triggered anymore. So I know the word should was a little side note, but think about what that word does, because it puts that expectation and that pressure on you. I should call my mother, even though I don't feel like talking to her. Oh my gosh. Did you hear what I just said? I should, but I don't really want to. How do I explain that to my mother? Well, she's probably watching this. Okay. Should is an outside moral obligation that triggers us if we don't agree with it. So again, it goes back to us. And when it comes to triggers, this is not about us having judgment on ourselves, right, wrong, black, white. No, we're all one. Yin yang, it's all one. There is a reason why we get triggered. It's a wake-up call for us to say, what's going on in my life right now? Why am I triggered? What is the purpose of this triggering me? What is the purpose for me? Yeah, Neville Goddard, if you've never read him, talks about the fact that everything is already created. I like to say sometimes, that we actually co-create. I like the way he looks at it, where he says that we're not co-creating, we're just manifesting what's already there. So it's already all out there. And we can only connect with it if, to use the old Egyptian axiom, know thyself, love thyself, be thyself. And triggers, just like crossroads, which is Jennifer mentioned earlier, are a beautiful gift to us. To stop, take a breath, and look at ourselves. Do I want this? Do I like it? Do I not like it? Because the person who triggers you, you can't control that person. The person who, I think that was Tanya's example earlier, that just received your fax and then said, I never got it. I never got it. I don't know what you're talking about. Poor person. Have you considered what's happening in their lives? Because it's about them, isn't it? It's all about them. If somebody yells at you from across the street, oh my goodness, what is going on in their lives that they do that to you? It's a call for you to keep that boundary of, oh my, there's something going on with that person, but I cannot control it. I have a choice to make. Do I want to react? Do I want to respond? And the question here is, the overall important question is, what is the right decision for me? Not for him, for her, for my kid, for my cat, for work. What is the right decision for me? And ladies, gentlemen, that's a question we're often afraid to ask. Because very often we don't know or love ourselves enough to dare and go out there and say, this is right for me. And ladies, I'm talking especially to you right now, because I've been there. Do you take enough time for you so that you are balanced and centered? And when somebody yells at you, it just washes off, using a stereotype, like Teflon. Or not. It's hard sometimes to ask the question, what is best for me? Especially when we get triggered. And we all do get triggered. Don't get me wrong. There's a word, I'm going to give you one last example. There's a word that triggers me, but not like I'm going to explode. And I think at least one person in the room knows this trigger already. Right? When somebody calls me cute. So if you want to get on my bad side, use that word. I don't like the word cute. I learned that it can be a compliment. And I learned to explain to people why it triggers me. Or I've simply asked them to please not use it. This goes back to my childhood, when a family member used it in what I considered a derogatory way. It's still with me, and I'm old enough to say it's still with me. But I've cleared it. So now when somebody says it, I no longer freak out and go, oh, that's cute, that's cute. I'm going, oh, let me think about how you mean it. I'm getting triggered. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to calm myself down. Thank you for the compliment. Because I have learned the steps, and I have learned to love and embrace myself enough to make a choice. So yes, that awareness, Tanya, to remember that the actions of others, the words of others often don't have anything to do with us. And we can only do that if we're balanced and centered. That's when we can take the time to say, this is a trigger. I know this is a trigger. I have time to respond because this is about me, not anybody else. What is in it for me? Important three-letter word, for me. What is the purpose? Sometimes I say why, but I really like what is the purpose of this happening right now? When you reach that calm, you're on the journey to reconnect with yourself in a deep way, to create that oneness, that stillness. And that reconnection with yourself from the heart builds a connection to the head where you can then say, well, stop, let me think about it. My heart is racing. Let me think about it. Let's bring the two together. Connect the heart and the head and say, okay, what is the purpose of this happening? This trigger. I am being triggered. I am allowing myself to be triggered. What's the purpose? When you ask yourself that question, you're knowing yourself better, you're creating wisdom from the inside out, and you will really, really positively impact many, many more people, even the ones who might initially be upset that you want to take time for you. Now, in that, ladies, and I see your comments. Thank you for that. In that, one additional action step, because I already said breathe, breathe, breathe. 3-step breath that I showed you. Stop and think, action step number 2. Number 3, if there are words or actions that you know are triggers for you because you know yourself, share them with others. Share them. Let them know. It's especially important in relationships with friends, with family, with loved ones, because they don't know unless you tell them. And then as human beings, we sometimes fall in the trap of blaming them. If you share with them that the word cute really triggers you, then you know what they're doing when they use it. They're trying to trigger you, which is a wonderful lesson to learn. If you don't explain your expectations, people can't know them. Okay? So when we're talking about what triggers you really, what are the takeaways that you have gotten so far as I'm beginning to wrap up? Okay, so breathe is step 1. Awesome. Breathe. Okay. Stop and think is step number 2. I think Jennifer's putting this down for, I'm going to probably not pronounce your name correctly. Kulayamisi. Okay, because you asked for the repeat. So step 1 is breathe. 2 is stop and think. 3 is asking the question, what is the purpose of this for me? Important word, for me. And number 4 would be, thank you, Tanya. Tell others what triggers me. That can lead to a very deep conversation. And in between, always breathe. The key to any trigger, eliminating it, accepting it, choosing it, avoiding it, comes back to who did we say? Who is at the core of a trigger? Somebody put that in the chat. So who is at the core of any trigger? Exactly. You, me. I am at the center, at the origin of any trigger that happens in my life. And there are parts of the trigger I cannot control. And there are parts that I can control. And the parts that I can control are the action steps. Breathing, stopping and thinking, communicating. And at the base of that, knowing myself. So the mind and the heart work in tandem. We've been taught to keep them separate. I'm working on reconnecting them all over the world. And I guess the last part, number 5, that I kept sprinkling all across the room today would seriously be, love yourself enough to stand up for yourself. But it's all about self-love. Any trigger, anything in your life goes back to how much you love yourself. So what really triggers you is you. Welcome to my world. Might be strange, but it's my world. And we are at the 40-minute mark, 42 minutes. So are there any questions? I tried to answer all of them as much as I could. Are there any questions, specific ones that you may have that I can answer at this time? Anything at all? Because I don't want to take up too much of your time, but if I get 2 more minutes, 3, and there are no questions, awesome. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes one more time. Close your eyes. And do this breath. It's called the breath of life. And you breathe into the count of 4. however fast or slow. You hold it to the count of 3, and you release to the count of 4. Do that 3 times for me. And then put one hand on your heart. It doesn't matter which one. And then it's going to look funny on camera, but I'm the only one doing it on camera. Put one hand on your head where you think your thinking brain is. You know, maybe you need like all over the head. And just visualize now that there is a stream of light going from your head to your heart and back. Don't make it too fast or you're going to get dizzy. So just move it up and down. And then let go of the hand that's on your head and put it over your heart as well. Now we have 2 hands on our heart. Just feel into this for a moment. And then in your mind, I want you to repeat 3 things that I'm saying. I love you. I know you. I am standing up for you. Take a deep breath in. And out. And then slowly, very slowly, open your eyes back up. Very slowly, no rush. Let's see how you feel with that. And part of what I just did is really a combination. There is the heart math, which is 0.1 frequency, and a very specific breathing that you can do. Very nicely explained also by Greg Braden. The breathing there is a little bit different. And then, of course, the Ho'oponopono prayer that reflects completely on you and allows you to take full responsibility for you. So I'm not sure if you have any reactions or comments on that little exercise. It's another very easy exercise. If you want to put it into your repertoire, I think this would be step 6. But you can do that as well. Always remember that you are the one who possesses the key to your happiness, to your fulfillment, and to your calm approach and grateful approach to life.
Does anyone have any questions for this amazing woman who's just shifted our world into I love you, I know you, and I am standing up for you? I just love it. Thank you for the Ho'oponopono prayer. I know it works wonders. It is a brilliant, brilliant thing to actually practice. Great stuff. Anybody have any questions for Natalie here?
Oh, I think they're all still in a zone. I only see comments. I think I put them in a good zone.
That's good.
Thank you, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you, Natalie, for sharing that wisdom with us. Really amazing. And it's so lovely to have these kind of conversations. And I think I'm so glad and so much gratitude for all of you coming together to create this. It's absolutely phenomenal. And I hope everyone who has joined us and has been able to take away some amazing golden nuggets that Natalie has shared. And triggers, yes, triggers are an interesting concept. And if we actually know that we are triggered all the time, then we can become consciously aware as to how to not react, but respond to them by asking questions of how can I do this differently? Is this really happening? What can I do to change this? So, having said that, I hope all of you enjoyed this because I know I did. And do send us your comments on Facebook. It'll be really cool for us to know what you thought of it and how we can improve and what else you would like to hear about. This is all something that we are creating together. And it's not that we have everything perfect. It's not about being perfect. Please, it's about being vulnerable enough, as Natalie said, to be open to actually inviting different possibilities that can extend and make things better. So, having said that, thank you very much, everyone who's attended. God bless all of you, and hope you have the most phenomenal month, actually, starting right away, because there's a lot of shift and change going on. Tanya. Okay,
Thank
all
you,
of you,
Tanya.
can you please come on screen, all of you, because I'd like to take a photograph, if I may, please. Whoever's here, please come on screen.
Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you.
Ooh, Eva.
Okay,
Oh, there
Eva.
she was. Alex.
Look at everyone.
Thank you.
Let me just try and get a photograph. Who's good at doing photographs here?
Uh-oh.
I will try my level best, and I'm quite sure I can. I'm actually going to take the whole picture here. Cheese, ladies.
Pizza, pizza.
Pizza, pizza. Yes.
Did it work?
Thank you very much. Thank you,
Awesome.
thank you, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, bye, bye.
Bye, thank you.